everybody. My name is Kathy Hill, and I'm Witty's webinar manager, and we're so thrilled to have you with us today. We have a great hour planned. We have Dr. Chaz Austin with us, and he's going to be talking about how to find work in the 21st century. And before we get started, just a few quick announcements. One is that I am recording this session today, so if you'd like to come back and listen to the recording and see the slides, you can do so at the link that I've put in your chat box. That's also the same link where you'll find the archive of all of our recordings over the past 2 years. So please take advantage of that. We've got some amazing speakers and topics for you there. And I also want to mention, if you're not registered for Witty's annual summit, which is coming up in a couple weeks, please go to witty.com and check it out. It is being held from May 31st through June 2nd in San Jose, California, and we've got 3 days of 60 amazing speakers, so it's really something that you're going to want to check out to see if you'd like to attend. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our speaker and we'll get started. Dr. Charles Michael Austin, who's also known as Dr. Chaz, is a recognized authority in the field of career development and training. He's the author of How to Find Work and Keep Finding Work for the Rest of Your Life, and also 101 Ways to Find Work and Keep Finding Work for the Rest of Your Career. Dr. Chaz's mission is to train his clients on how to market themselves in what has become truly a freelance world. He's presented numerous papers on career training and development, and he served as Director of Career Development at Musicians Institute in Hollywood, Career Resource Specialist for business students and alumni at Woodbury University in Burbank, MBA Career Development and Employer Relations Manager at Pepperdine University's Graduate School of Business and Management, and also Director of Placement at Video Symphony in Burbank. He holds a BA in Sociology, a master's degree in Broadcast Communication Arts, and a doctorate in Organizational Leadership. So Dr. Chaz, welcome. We are so thrilled to have you with us today, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the webinar over to you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was a great introduction. Welcome, everyone. We only have an hour, so what I'm going to do is contextual. There are 21 slides. They're very dense. What I welcome and ask you to do is, if you have any questions or concerns, this is interactive. Please type them, and as we go on, I will attempt to answer them. Let's go through this. What we're looking at is just a new way to address the workforce and how you navigate in it. So we're going to try to shift your perspective as best I can in an hour. New rules. This is a vastly different working world from those of your parents or the last generation. Corporate loyalty is dead. There's no long-term job stability. Noam Chomsky is a brilliant philosopher, called us the precariat rather than the proletariat, the precariat, because our working lives are very precarious. We are essentially all freelancers, going from job to job, to gig to project to project. And you want to start thinking of yourself as a business. More rules. Degrees necessary, but they're a commodity. You're supposed to have one. All a degree will do, and I speak from some experience since I have 3 of them, including a terminal degree, it gets you to a higher level where you can hustle. You can hustle at a higher level for work. You're supposed to have one. Resumes and cover letters are still necessary, but a lot of people think they're the answer. They are necessary but insufficient. They need to be perfect. They are not necessarily what's going to get you the job or the work. And you constantly have to self-promote. So whatever it is you do, you're also promoting yourself. You're also marketing yourself. I don't care whether you're a chemist or a professor or an IT expert or a social media expert or whatever it is you do, everyone's in sales. Sorry, the life's a pitch and then you die. And you will have numerous careers. Those of you who are millennials will have, research has shown, 5 to 7 careers in your life. So you want to take your attention away from finding the perfect job and just getting to work, because whatever you're doing, you'll be doing something else in 6 months, 5 years, 8 years, whatever it is. You, in 10 or 20 years, will be doing things you can't even imagine now that may not have existed at this time. So the foundation of all the work, I preach, I evangelize about this and have for years. 2 things, and life is about 2 things for me: self-awareness, how you're wired, and relationships, how you're connected. You really need to know what it is that drives you and what holds you back. That's the first part. And then relationships, you build everything through relationships. Everything is collaborative. So it really is a matter of having a good sense of who you are, what you offer in the workplace, and who you know. I've written SWOT analysis. I think most of you know about that and what it is: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The first 2, strengths and weaknesses, are internal. Opportunities and threats are outside factors. And whatever it is you're going after, you want to do a very sober list of all of those. And again, back to collaboration. Speak with people who know you well. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What gets in the way? If I have an idea for a new business or a new venture, what are the opportunities there, and what are the threats? What's the competition? What's the landscape? What's the economy like? Another foundation, critical thinking, and what I call critical thinking and action, that just being aware of something you want or an issue or a problem are not sufficient. Chekhov said knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. So what I've done in working with clients and students, I've been a college professor for many years as well, this is the heart of that. The first is strategic. So in planning whatever your next career move happens to be, this, by the way, also applies to anything in life, whether it's buying a car or finding a mate or buying a house. It's the same process. You can always use that. And I pride myself on the fact that whatever I teach or preach or counsel or mentor people on are practices they can use for the rest of their lives. So we start at the end. What's the goal? And you need to be very specific about that. What is it that you're looking for next in your career? And as it says, specific goals. Now there's a line here that says monetizable passion, and you have to understand that distinction. You can be passionate about something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make you a living. There may not be a market for it. People don't pay for it. So you might do something that's related in some way that will give you a regular income, and then have your passion on the side. I had years ago a girlfriend who worked for a big company in the television space, and I said, "Oh, you've been there 20 years, long time. That's your career." She said, "No, it's my job. My passion is my horses, and this pays for that." So you want to understand that distinction. And I'm sorry to run through this fast. There's a lot to talk about. I am available for individual counseling, and my email address will be at the end. But I, at least in an hour, wanted to give you some taste of this. So think of this as the menu, not the meal. The third bullet down there, the steps you need to take to reach the goal. And it needs to be plotted out and very specific. Then results need to be measurable. So in other words, it's not simply about I did better. It's exactly what were you going after and what did you achieve. I plan to speak to X number of people this week. I plan to have this many interviews. I plan to raise this much money for my new business. And how did you do? If it's not measurable, there's no score. You don't know if you've won or not. Then the tactical part of this, what I found extremely useful is that you journal daily. Here's the goal. These are the steps, measurable, specific steps I took in order to get there. And this is what got in the way. This is back to the self-awareness part. I find that I have big plans and I tend not to execute. I find I have big plans and I overdo it. I take on more than I can chew. I have big plans, as a third example, and I tend to procrastinate. I get overwhelmed. You need to know this about yourself. Then the second point is a timeline and milestones. By when will you have raised $500,000 in capital? And once you get to that point, you've reached a certain milestone. That's good seed money for your business, let's say. Then third point is resources. And you need to put this in your journal, how you acquired and use them. Those are both physical and personal. Who did you meet who could help move things along so you ultimately got to your goal? I'm about delivering results. That's what I want my clients to do. I want actual, real results, tangible results that one can point to and say, I did this. Personal board of directors. A lot of us tend to think we can do it ourselves. We can't. Specialize in what you're great at, and then hire people around you who are expert, who can help you. For example, I'm good with money, but I'm no expert. So I have financial advisors whom I trust to work with me. I have attorneys I trust. I'm not an attorney. Specialize in what you were meant to do and surround yourself with people you can count on. And the last point in the journal is what roadblocks got in the way. Because often we get in our own way, our own childhood traumas, the way we're wired as human beings, the fears we have, the anxieties we have, often get in the way of our accomplishing what we want to. Any questions? Type them in. Branding, big buzzword. So everything's sales. Whether you're selling yourself for the labor market or you're selling a business, it's the same thing. So what you want to look at is what specific, monetizable, marketable, and transferable skills you offer. That you graduated from college, that you're a hard worker, that you're a team player and have a good attitude. I'm going to assume that's true. What I want to know is what specific software programs do you know and have proficiency with? What people do you know? What specific accomplishments have you had that I can point to? I hire people, and this is what I look for. What makes you special? Why you over many other people who can do the same thing you can? Why do I buy what you're selling? What are the benefits to me? When I do mock interviews, I'm actually doing one with a client this afternoon. I'm going to tell him in a job interview, because he's going for a job in this case, there's only one person in the room that counts. That's me, the boss. What are you going to do specifically for me? What do you know about my business? Who do we have in common? Brand is relationship and reputation. So here's your new toolkit. This is what you need to pursue this new labor market, where you're always selling, you're always hustling, and always looking. Sorry, that's just the way it is. One is improved communication skills, both oral, written, and in terms of social media. What's your social media footprint? Do people know you? It works. So whatever reluctance you might have, if there are any of you out there who are reluctant to really dive into social media, cut it out and get some, again, personal board of directors. Get people who are adept with that to guide you through it. That's important. How good are you at presenting? This is what I practice with clients. Honestly, I hire people often based on how personable they are. Do I like them? That's a huge part of what a boss thinks about when they're hiring somebody. I know it's what I think about. I have to live with you. Are you a likable person? Are you personable? Do you have a good attitude? I assume you can do the work, but I have to live with you. So if I'm going to spend 10, 12 hours a day on weekends with you, you better be a person I want to be around. And then the written. Is there a shortfall there? Are you able to convey what you need to say in writing? I have colleagues in the business world who complain about MBA students who can't write an email. Don't have that be you. And then self-promotion and sales, which I talked about before. That is a constant in your life. It's a new habit, and you're just going to have to do it for as long as you want to work. Communication and packaging. How do you articulate your unique selling proposition and your narrative? USP is a marketing term. What makes you special and different from everyone else? You're in some ways no different from Coca-Cola or Apple or anyone else that's selling something in the marketplace. You're selling too. Why you? What makes you special? And the narrative is, what's your story? How did you get here? I want to know who you are in an interview. I want to know what drives you. What's your passion? How did you get here? What do you like? What are you looking to do? What got you to do what you're doing now? What are the goals for the future? I want to know how you're wired. I want to know who I'm dealing with as a human being, because I will spend more time with you than I do with my wife. Honestly, you'd spend more time with people you work with than the people you're partnered with and your families. So what's the narrative? That's something that I practice. I want to be comfortable, and I want you to be comfortable with expressing who you are. And we practice that until I have a good sense of who you are when I sit with you and think, this is someone I would like to work with. The verbal part, work on soundbite, the 30-second elevator pitch, and mock interviews, which are critical, so that your the anxiety level is down, you're less stressed out, you know what to expect, you know what they're going to probably say. You know what you need to say. I have another client I've been working with who's up for a job, and we've been practicing over and over again. What do I say if they ask this? What do I say? What kind of an example do I give when they say, tell me about a time that you worked with a difficult boss? What did you do? And then the written part of it, your resume, very important. It's a marketing document. It's not confession. You want confession, go see a priest. Honestly, as a boss, I only care about what you've done that applies to me. What have you done that's going to monetize my business? That's what I want to see on the resume. I played the drums for 15 years. It appears nowhere on my resume. No one in what I do cares that I played the drums particularly. I might talk about it in a narrative if they want to know more, but it really doesn't matter to me as a boss. And then, of course, the social media, very important. And increasingly so. Networking. I have what I've been told is a unique way to do this. I have clients and students create what I call a portable electronic granular database. It's populated by family, friends, and colleagues, and expanded via affinity groups. Well, you can read. Sorry. Anyway, it's a list of everyone who might be in a position to help you in your life. And I've had clients and students do this, and they have an attitude once they're in process of doing this that I've never looked at people this way before. I've never seen people in this way, in a way that I can use them to forward my career. Let me give you more specifics. So a normal database has name, phone numbers, addresses. Granular database includes the following: places they've lived and worked and their job titles, their significant others, which include children and pets, important dates, hobbies and interests, and sweet spots. Essentially, I want to have a dossier on everyone I know. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm going to be a journalist or a cop and ask them all these things at a meeting. But what you want to do, since how you get work is through relationships, you want to get to know people on a deep level. So it's, as I always tell people, breakfast, coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever you can afford. Sit with people face to face, break bread with them, that they will start talking about themselves, their pets, their dog, their kid who's graduating from high school, whatever it happens to be, people they love or hate, Sarah Palin, Barack Obama, You don't take notes there, but afterwards you write down everything you can and put it into that database, which is probably on your smartphone. What this does, and it's perhaps highly manipulative, but in a good way, you now have an excuse to stay in touch with these people based on them, not you. So rather than call them, let's say you wanted to talk to Joe, and Joe was someone who could potentially hire you for his company. And you're not going to call Joe every month and say, Joe, got any work for me? Because Joe's not interested. What you want to do is have a reason to contact Joe that's about Joe. Joe, I understand that your son is graduating high school. Congratulations. And Joe will say invariably, how thoughtful of you to remember. While I have you on the phone, I'm having a barbecue. There's some people I'd like you to meet in the industry. Can you make it? That's how you find work, is through developing and deepening those relationships. And the granular database is the heart of that. Networking is selling. Big buzzword. But first, we have to have the script down. We have to know what the pitch is. I do not want to put a client or student in front of someone who could potentially hire them, and they don't know what to say when they're asked, what is it you do and what can you do for me? So that's my definition, by the way, making friends in order to advance your career. Now, I said it was manipulative, but in a good way. Really what you're doing is you're exposing people to your talents and your skill set. And they need to know that because they can use what you do. So really, you're being of service and a contribution to them. So you want to look at who your audience is and how do you find them. And this is why we start at the end with the goal. So you know what the goal is, and that's what you're going towards. So who needs to know what I do so I can find work? And how do you find them? Again, you're using your mentors and you're using your board of directors and colleagues to do this. How well do people know you? How often do you appear on their radar? Sales versus access. I was for a short time a Hollywood agent here, and I learned the difference between that and sales because I'd been in sales for many years. Sales is where you send out 100 emails and you get one appointment and maybe make a sale. Access is having relationships with people who with one phone call can change your life. People in positions of power and influence. That's who you want to get to. The door openers are people in your life who can introduce you to others who need to meet with you. I do this all the time. It's probably one of the most valuable services I offer to people is opening doors to people who they might not otherwise meet. And they will get a meeting because of my relationship with this person. Enormously valuable. You want to deepen relationships, and part of this is finding mentors, people who can help guide you. And as experienced as I am, and the doctorate and 2 books and all that, I have mentors as well, because I don't see everything. I have blind spots too. This is the context for everything. What are you selling? Who do you know? How can you help them? That's really what we're talking about here. And it is a conversation about context. It's changing your attitude about how to find work. Everything else is filling in the details. Once you have the context for it all, the new perspective, everything will follow. Selling your brand. Okay, the golden rule of business is who has the gold makes the rules. So what you want to look at first are the employer's needs, because you're taking your skill set and your talents and articulating them in such a way that you're telling the employer, I have what you need. And I've been introduced by someone who's got your back, who trusts you, who opened the door for me. We need to meet each other. This is what I can do for you specifically. Where you're coming from, it's all about contribution and service. This is why when I say it's manipulative, it is in a positive way, because these people need to know you. They need to know what you offer them. You're perfect. I'm so glad I met you. Why didn't I meet you 6 months ago? This is great. I have to thank Mary for putting us together. She's a dear friend of mine. I trust her, and she said to meet with you. And boy, you know my company, and Mary speaks highly of you, and we know some other people, and when can you start? People do like to work with people they know and trust. And that line, good enough is good enough. I will tell you from personal experience, I don't necessarily hire the best person out there. I don't need the best person out there. I need someone who's going to fit with the team. And very often the most qualified does not get hired. It's the person that works with everyone else. That's a very important concept to know. So often you get the job, and talk to anybody in the business world, 95% of them will say, I got my job because I knew somebody. They want to be comfortable. They want to make sure that you have their back, and they can trust you. That's a huge part of getting the job, because I'm assuming you know what you're doing. So the heart of the work I've done, and my doctoral dissertation is called experiential learning. Philip Glass said, you practice and you get better. It's very simple. And Aristotle said it in a different way. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So what I'm talking about here, I will never tell you selling yourself, marketing yourself, self-promotion is fun. Most people hate it, but it needs to develop into a habit, because in a freelance world, that's how you continue to find work. That's just the way it is. So it's not fun, but it's just necessary. The multiple income streams approach. If you're looking at yourself as a business, which I highly recommend you do, picture a wagon wheel. The hub is your core brand or skill set, and the spokes are the various ways you can derive income from your talents and skills. So what you want to look at is, how many ways can I make money? So myself as an example, I teach, I write, I speak, I'm an author, I have private clients, etc., etc., etc. I do workshops. Just as a business, okay, you're a business now. Think of yourself that way. Business doesn't rely on a single client. The single client goes out of business, you're out of luck. So what you want to look at is, if one type of work isn't happening, that's okay, I can teach, or I'm writing a book, or I'm doing some articles, or I'm doing some speaking engagements, or I have private clients. So there's always income. There's always a steady stream of income. You don't have to rely on just one thing. This is the new way, the new perspective to approach the 21st century of work. Time management is going to be a huge part of that. And this is what the journaling is for. I actually do occasionally for my clients, and always for my students when I teach college, is to have them do a time management budget for 1 week. That's all you need. You write down everything you do in half-hour increments the whole day. And you look at it and then learn to prioritize and learn to be more efficient. What you're looking at is less churn and more accomplishment. What's the best way to spend your time? So you want measurable deliverables and deadlines. What specifically are you going to do by when? It's a discipline exercise, but extremely necessary, because you are going to be busy. You're going to be juggling a lot of different things you're doing and a lot of different projects. So you want to use your time in the best way possible. The other part of that's money management, which they're very similar, by the way. Distinguish your needs from your wants. If the focus is on the end goal, what do you really need? You need to pay the mortgage, pay the rent, the latte, which is costing you a lot more money than you thought, is a want. No, you need it. No, you don't need it. You want it. So you're going to learn to distinguish the two, and to postpone some of the things that right now are extraneous, delayed gratification. You want to look at both in terms of time or money. Does it make me money or cost me money? Is this the best use of my time, or could I be doing something else? Should I be at this networking event, or should I be texting and emailing people? Should I go to this conference or not? Is there a better way to spend the time? Just think like a business. Sorry, you don't have to like it again, but this is the way to do it, to be ready for the 21st century. I want my clients, I want my students, I want you working. The last bullet there is revenue and expenses. You're always looking for ways to increase revenue and cut expenses. This is why you have a budget. And it's something you review on a constant basis. Businesses always do, and you're now a business. So how can I make more money? How can I cut expenses? constantly doing this, because the expenses will run away from you. I didn't realize I was spending that much going out for drinks or going out for dinners. Is there a better way, a more efficient way I can use my money? You possess talents and skills you can share with the world, even if it may take you years to discover them. So for some of you, you may not find your ultimate passion. Don't worry about it. Get to work. And there may be more than one ultimate passion. You may be doing something now or in 10 years that's it. And then in another 10 years, there's a new it. So don't worry. I know younger people particularly, there's enormous pressure from their parents and peers. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? It may take you years to discover what that is, and it may change. There may be more than one thing. So don't worry about it. Keep working, continue learning, and please take care of yourself. That old line, your body's a temple, not an amusement park. You need to be in top shape physically in order to do all these things. So do take care of yourself and nurture yourself. Those are my 2 books, both available on Amazon. And that's what I do, career packaging and marketing. That's how you reach me. Again, I work with private clients, happy to do so. It's a very quick hour in terms of, and quite a bit less actually. I wanted to give it some time for some questions and some dialogue. But that's how you can reach me so we can further the conversation. I've tried to cram in as much as I could in the time and hope it's been valuable for you. I will now take questions. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Chaz. Thank you. This was awesome.
and very fast. I know.
Yes, it's a lot of content, but I really want to encourage people here. We've got some questions coming in to take advantage because we have about 30 minutes left, and this is an opportunity to really get some questions answered. So go ahead.
Good. Peggy from Arlington Heights, Illinois, can you talk more about the practical steps to developing a BOD? What's a BOD? Oh, time gaps. Well, that's Linda. So let me go to Linda's, and then Peggy, if you tell me what a BOD. Oh, board of directors. Sorry. Okay, let's start with Peggy's. How do you develop a board of directors? Start with family and friends. Who do your families know that might be expert at certain areas where you're lacking? If you're really good with coding and you're not particularly good with money, who might they know that can advise you about money and how to invest? And you start developing relationships with people you can trust. Like, this is my go-to guy or go-to woman on financial matters or legal matters. So it's really harvesting older people than you, because older people like to advise younger people, and they're very grateful for someone to ask them to share their vision. So that's how you would start. Let's see, other questions here. I have a sticky finger here. It's not moving this very well. There we go. Ways to address time gaps in the resume. I once had a client who he had a gambling addiction, and for 7 years he did nothing but gamble. And how we played it on the resume was his grandmother had left him a sizable amount of money as an inheritance, and that's what he spent it on. And the way we spun it was that he traveled the world for 7 years. We didn't mention the gambling, but that's what he did. He did travel the world. I wouldn't be terribly concerned about gaps in the resume. I would have to work with that on an individual basis. Sometimes were you perhaps caring for a sick relative, or you went back to school, or you were a homemaker? Prison's a little tough if you were in prison, but anything else, there are ways around it to explain that. Again, what I try to do with my clients and students is avoid the formal interview. I am not going to hire somebody based on 45 minutes. I'm not going to know them well enough. But if they've been referred by someone I know and trust, I'm less concerned about it, what it says on the resume, because my friends and colleagues whom I trust have pre-screened you. So I'm not so worried about that. Formal interviews usually don't work anymore. People will still hire who they know and trust. Okay, good. More questions? I hope I answered those. If I didn't, just say, hey, you didn't answer my question. Say more. Jody from Sacramento, advice for a resume. What would you like to know? I have templates I use, and I can make a resume be beautiful, and it's still not going to get you an interview probably. You're probably going to get somebody who knows you to refer you. It's a shame, because the best people don't necessarily get hired. They wind up hiring their niece anyway, even though they're more qualified people out there. You want access through what I call the side door. Advice I'd give to an introvert. I've taught a lot of public speaking courses when I was a professor. It's something that you can get past. It takes a bit of work, but really, if you come from that one word, contribution, you can contribute to someone else. It helps. Toastmasters is an excellent idea. That will help pull you out of yourself and speak in public. And having a coach to do that, I could do that for you. And if it's really deep-seated, therapy might be an answer. If you're willing to do whatever it takes, you will push through. And if you're being less introverted is what's necessary, you can push through that. I know it's scary, but I've had success with that, and it's really learning to relate to the audience. That's the quick and down and dirty answer. Okay. Meet as a group or with them, or meet as a group with them or individuals. Are you talking, Peggy, about a job interview? I'm not clear. Or my coaching. Nikki, what's your advice on handling possible ageism in the interview process? Again, the personal relationships. If you have enough to offer, my colleagues don't particularly care about how old you are. It's can you do the job? And sometimes there's an enormous advantage to being older, because you're cooler under pressure, you're wiser, you're not going to get rattled, and you're much more reliable. But again, it's getting in front of the right audience, people who already know you or know somebody who know you, where age is not so much of a factor. Ways to stand out, Jody from Sacramento. I'd have to talk to you on a one-on-one basis. Oh, thanks. Kathy had suggestions for introverts. Thank you very much. Ways to stand out. I'd have to know what it is you do. I've never met two people, and I've done thousands of resumes, probably a couple thousand in my career. I've never met two people who had exactly the same skill set. So there's always a way to package your skills so that you stand out, so that you're different. I'm older, I'm younger, I speak more languages, I've been here, I've done that. There's a way to package it, which is what I do, so that you look different and you do stand out. And you're welcome, Linda, about the time gaps in the resume. Again, this is only so much I can do in an hour. So it's a taste. It's a start. Good. I think I've gotten all the questions so far. Let me scroll back down. Yeah, Peggy, again, meet as a group or with them or individuals. I'm not clear about that question. And again, let's see. Oh, mentors. Usually individuals. That they may never know each other. Your attorney may never know your financial advisor. Mine don't. Doesn't matter. No, it's knowing that go-to person you can talk to about specific things, and I have them all over my life. I'm at the home of my friend Brent Cohen, who's a brilliant guy. You should look him up, brentcohen.com. And he's my go-to guy on certain things technical. And then I have other people who are my go-to people on social media, et cetera, et cetera. I have people I go to about relationship advice. No, they don't have to know each other. These are your specialists, and they're there for you, and you can ask them quick questions and get advice as needed on that topic. In today's, let's see, from Carolyn, in today's landscape of frequent job changes, how do you capitalize on a long history with one company? It seems to be frowned upon now. Yeah, isn't that odd? How ironic. For years it was like, oh, good, you've worked for one company for a long time. And now it's like, oh, that's bad, you must be stale. Again, it's spin. And again, it's a tough thing to explain to a stranger in a quick interview. There is a way to pitch it. You built up a great skill set. You had perhaps a broad range of jobs you had. It doesn't say that you had one job with the company, but you moved up, you were very comfortable, and now you've decided on a slight career change, or the company laid you off, or they're outsourcing or offshoring their personnel, whatever, time to move on. This is now, there are people like you, you're not alone. People do understand that. There's a way to explain it that makes you look good. So not everyone frowns upon it. Peggy, so I like your list of mentors you have. Which do you have or recommend? Technical, IT, social media, financial relationships. I've got them all. Email me, and I'll be happy to refer you. You're in Arlington Heights, Illinois, though, so I would put you in touch with people back in the Midwest, because it's good if they're closer to you, and you can meet with them face-to-face occasionally. If you were laid off, how do you spin that? From Joanne in Colorado. Boy, everybody gets laid off nowadays. It's no longer frowned upon. It's kind of understood. This is what happens with companies. They always seem to blame the worker. You were laid off like there's something wrong with you, rather than the companies, which are so often dysfunctional. It's amazing anything gets done with the dysfunctionality in organizations. It's just astounding. So it's not necessarily the worker's fault. You were laid off. It could be myriad of reasons having nothing to do with the quality of your work. It happens, and very often you'll meet people who said, oh yeah, me too. Me too. A buddy of mine was just laid off last week through no fault of his own. It's a dysfunctional company. They got rid of his position, and I'm helping him get something else. We've set up a couple of meetings for him already. Highly talented guy. Got laid off. Next. I hope this is helping. These are really facile, quick answers to questions that require a lot more time, but I appreciate Whitty giving me the opportunity to at least begin to do something for you. So Peggy, do contact me, and I can put you in touch with people who can help you in those different areas, mentors. And I'm on LinkedIn, so please connect with me there. We keep the dialogue going. This is the first of many conversations, I hope. I want to be available for you if you need more guidance. So you get a peek into it right now. Here we go. Karen, can you talk a little about social media footprint? Do you need multiple social media accounts, or is one sufficient? Depends. Depends. LinkedIn, for sure, it's business. Facebook, yes. Twitter, yes. how much you use them and to what extent, I would probably recommend some sort of a social media mentor to tell you how to do that, someone to help you with your social media presence and where to place the footprint, how heavily, how often. Critical part of your communication now. That's how people find you. And as we know, companies now more and more look to LinkedIn and look to Facebook to check you out. I check companies out the same way. I go to Glassdoor. I look at news items to find out about them. Their whole history is there. In case any of you are concerned about ageism, if you go to a site called PIPL.com, people.com, it tells you how old you are for all the world to see. You can no longer hide that. So there's absolutely no privacy anymore. Big Brother's watching, and it's called the Internet. So if you're going to be public, be public. But again, the advice on that, it depends on what you're looking for. For sure, LinkedIn, and I call LinkedIn Facebook plus money. It's the business version of Facebook in some ways. So again, a mentor, and I can hook you up with people who can do that. I have a client who's asking for that exactly now. Tell us some stories. Oh my. Let's see. It's in my first book. I had a student at Woodbury University who was applying for a job with a financial company, and he came in for advice on how to interview, mock interview for the job. I said, "Who are you interviewing with?" And he knew the person, so we looked at the company's website, and there, lo and behold, was a picture and a short bio on the man he was interviewing with, and we read it. And at the end, he talked about, in the bio, very short bio, that he was involved in a charity called Wilson's Syndrome, which neither of us had heard about. Now, in both speaking and writing, people remember the first and last thing. So I said, if that's the last thing in his short bio, that matters to him. Find out what it is and talk to him about it. So he went for the interview. And at the end, the man asked him, "Do you have any questions?" He said, "Yes, I noticed in your bio it said that you were involved with Wilson's Syndrome. What's the story on that?" He said, "Actually, my wife has that. It's some sort of a nervous disorder, and I've been involved in the charity because of her, and you noticed that, and that shows attention to detail. And I've interviewed like a dozen people, and I'm offering you the job now because of that." So that's the kind of thing that can happen when you do your research and you pay attention to what matters to them. So that's a story. Karen, you're welcome. Thank you for participating. That's one story. Read my books. I've got tons of stories in them. My wife always said to me, "Tell stories, tell stories." That's what people are interested in. So I have many, but that's one. And we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to see if there were some other questions anyone has. But again, this is a first shot here. This is an opening of a dialogue for all of us, I hope, or most of us. And so let's start talking, and we can do that on the phone, on texting, or email, or whatever. And you're welcome to all connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to comment on, you had mentioned before about, we were talking about the concept of introverts, but I think the idea of asking someone how you can help them is a great way for somebody who's more introverted to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are hesitant and they don't want to come across as a used car salesman. But I just want to share real quickly, I have a client I was working with that was with a nonprofit, and she wanted to go to work for a for-profit in the technology industry and truthfully didn't think anybody would want her because she had been in the nonprofit world for 15 years. And I said, look, just get out there and start joining some organizations and see who's there, meet people, build relationships, and see how you can help them. Long story short, in 3 months, she got invited to a paying position on a board of directors. And in 3 months after that, they gave her a position, and she's making very, very good money. And now she's got a second paid position on another board. And that was all through meeting people, finding out how she could help.
Yep. Great story. Yay for her. You're in service to other people, and you have something they need. So it really is a matter of career packaging and marketing. What's the package? How do you market it? I'm doing a workshop in a couple of days for a group called College Track here in Los Angeles. They work with underprivileged kids and try to get them into college. Will I Am is involved with that. And their issue, as they told me, that they want me to address is in their culture, most of them are Hispanic, you don't talk about yourself because it's considered bad form. It's bragging. And as a friend of mine said to me once, if you did it, it's not bragging. So I'm going to talk about the distinction between saying, you know, I'm the greatest author that ever lived versus I wrote 2 books about developing your career. One is hype and the other one is a fact. So shyness, part of that is like, well, I would be bothering people perhaps, or it's unseemly to do that. And it's just a different way to look at it, that people need to know about this. They need to know what you can do for them. And approaching them, as Kathy said, and what can I do for you is a wonderful way to do that.
Great. We've got a little over 5 minutes if anybody has any other questions.
How do you handle not having a current position on LinkedIn in profile? Used to be called unemployed. You can call yourself a consultant. You could say you are undergoing transition in your career. You could just say you're an IT professional. That doesn't say you're working or not. It says what you do. It's your brand. So you can just do that. People are not so concerned about that. Everybody's looking for work all the time. So I would do that. I would just say this is the definition of who I am right now. I'm an IT professional, for example. Carolyn, just one comment. Please tell the students you're going to work with that the STEM programs are wide open for the future. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would like to see more women in STEM programs, and I hate the fact that they've been dissuaded in the past from that. So hopefully that's going to open up, and I will do whatever I can to help that. Okay. You're welcome, Witty Conference, and Linda, you're welcome as well. My pleasure. I hope this was of use to you all. And even though it was short, that you got some value out of it. Do you recommend stating what you do on your LinkedIn profile or the industry you work in? Sure. And obviously joining groups. I'm involved with tons of educational groups and career groups because that's my specialty. So you want to push out toward those groups and start joining them and join the conversation and start meeting people that way. And in person is ultimately the way you want to go. I don't hire people based on their LinkedIn profile or that they write good emails. I need to meet with them in person, and for the most part, that's the case with most employers. So you want to have that as a step to developing and deepening relationships with people. Love the pictures on my wall. That's Brent's wall. Yes, those are not close personal friends of mine. I'm at Brent's home. He was kind enough to help me, or so you thank Brent and his wife Wendy for that.
That's awesome. We got about 2 more minutes if anybody else wants to jump in. I just think one of the other things to share is that don't wait until you need a job to start building your network. Do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's how you build the relationship.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You're always hustling for work. Sorry. That's just the way it is. You're always hustling for work. Would I have said this 1 year ago? Yes, Peggy, I would. It's gotten more and more. Well, the only difference, I wouldn't have said as much about social media, but that's come more to the front, more forward. It's become more important as time goes on. Great webinar. Oh, thank you so much. Good. I'm telling you, you need to deliver value to people and know how to articulate that. And that's where I'm coming from. Was this a value to you? Otherwise, I wasted everyone's time. So that was my intent. And that is, as a last word, That's the intent I want you to take, which is you have something special to offer to people, and you want to let them know about it. Otherwise, you're cheating them. This is not about you. So get past the shyness. They need to know what you can do because you can make an impact and a difference in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Chaz. This was a great hour, and we really appreciate your time and being here, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of people to reach out to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank Whitty for the opportunity, and thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.